Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Wednesday, July 10th, 2019. Thank you for tuning in to the evening edition tonight. We've got lots to discuss. Talk about some space weather, plus a possible storm in the Gulf to get with. But first, let's go ahead and get started over here at the grandsolarminimum.com, where Mari has taken the time to outline all tonight's articles. So if there's anything that you want to fact check for yourself, we will have the link to every article we discuss here at the grandsolarminimum.com. Let's get started right now. We're sitting, solar wind speed wise, we're sitting at an even 583 kilometers per second with a density of 1.3. Now, we did get a geomagnetic storm earlier, a couple different times. However, so far, we haven't seen any kind of direct result due to the solar storm, so that's a good thing. I will say this, since the solar winds have bombarded Earth's atmosphere, or the magnetic field, I should say, the TCI went up from 316 to 3.27. So that makes sense. You got solar wind, highly charged particles, lighten up the ionosphere, and of course the upper atmosphere as well. So you would have to take into consideration that that's probably why we've seen an increase in the TCI today as well. Let's go to our space weather section here at the grandsolarminimum.com. There's the two spots that we had a G1 magnetic storm, geomagnetic, I should say, early or late July 9th into early July 10th. And since then, we have subsided down to a calm KP of 2. And there is the sun. It is blank. We did have a sunspot earlier in the week, and since then, it has fizzled out. Let's take a look at this. Interesting enough, there's a coronal hole forming around that former sunspot AR 2744. So, but other than that, we really don't have anything to report as far as coronal holes or anything like that from our star. No new sunspots to mention as we look at the whole picture here, and we don't see anything active regions. Maybe a slight chance of a coronal hole development on the eastern limb, right just above the equatorial region. But other than that, space weather from our sun for the time being is starting to calm down once again and get back into those minimum conditions. But right now, sunspots, we are 120 days in a row, or I'm sorry, 120 days for 2019 and 2 days in a row without sunspots. All right, so what's leading off tonight's weather? Of course, tropical cyclone forming in the Gulf of Mexico. This, according to Watchers.news, the center disturbance expected to become a tropical storm, Barry, was located about 170 miles east-southeast of the mouth of the Mississippi River at 1500 UTC time. The system had maximum sustained winds of 45 kilometers per hour, that's 30 miles an hour, and was moving west-southwest at 8 miles per hour at the time with minimum central pressure of 1011. Continues to talk about the track here. A lot of people are talking about this storm, and I'll tell you something. I was watching a little bit of the Weather Channel beforehand, and I don't really think they have a really sense of what is coming, if anything is coming. I feel like that this is being underplayed a little bit. With looking at the GFS, which we will go over here soon, they're talking about that yellow zone here. That, you know, on the Weather Channel, they're talking maybe 4 to 5 inches of rain. Maybe some areas get 8 to 12 inches. So this is and that's the rain forecast for the next 7 days. So that's wishful thinking. I hope that is the case of what we're going to get. A lot of other folks seem to think that this could be a dangerous situation. I know we'll talk about it later in our broadcast as well. But we were looking at already storm surge flooding in the French Quarter of New Orleans. Now, one thing I can tell you, looking at this image here, this storm, if my eye does not deceive me, this storm is now tracking almost due west, and where we might have a center. And let me show you guys real quick what I'm talking about. Where is there she is, my handy dandy arrow. So I'm watching this area right here like we all are, and at the last slide of this image, it appears that we are seeing a definite motion here. This storm is trying to get its act together and moving west at this time, giving it more time to develop, more time over warmer waters, and that always can lead to intense as far as it developing rather quickly. That is possible. As Mari reported earlier on our solar update, the waters are about 3.5 degrees warmer than normal for this time of year. So this would not be a surprise. But we'll get more back into this as we continue with our broadcast. But Watchers.news, we're talking about it. Right now, nothing more than just a tropical depression or even a storm at this point. We're not really... There are some indications that it could be a Cat 1 hurricane. That's what most of them are admitting. Some are suggesting this could develop quickly into a 2 or a 3 category as far as hurricanes go. We will keep our eyes and we'll touch base on that here just in a minute. I also want to stay with Watchers.news and talk about the seismic activity continues at Coso volcanic field in Inyo County, California. Now, the activity was triggered by magnitude 5.4 at 4:19 on July 6th. That's about 12 miles east-southeast of Little Lake, which itself has an aftershock of the 7.1 occurred an hour earlier, located about 10.5 miles north-northeast of Ridgecrest to the south. This is according to California Volcano Observatory. Of the approximately 1,600 earthquakes detected at 1.0 or higher since July 8th, 12 have been magnitude 3 or above, with the largest 2 registering at a 4.1. The intensity of the activity at Coso is now gradually declining. The current activity at Coso can be considered a distant aftershocks or triggered earthquakes. The M71 on July 6 occurred with a northwest trending fault oriented towards the Coso area, and it is common for large earthquakes to cause aftershocks beyond the actual fault rupture. No ground deformation indicative of volcanic activity has been detected, and there is no imminent threat of an eruption. I'm going to have to disagree with that part of the report, and that's no fault of Watchers.news. But it has been reported that we have a fissure that has opened up 2 miles long, about 100 feet wide. So, right around in this same area that they're talking about, there's no ground deformation indicative or indicative of volcano activity. So, maybe he just hasn't heard that or seen that, but it has been reported that we do have a fissure that has been seen. It's a 2 mile long fissure, opened up as wide as 100 feet, I believe. So, again, I brought this up tonight because we're talking about this earthquake and everybody's watching it right now, and so should they. We've seen some minor earthquake activity in Texas and Oklahoma, and we know that there was an energy transfer that needed to take place across the Midwest to maybe avert a possible large earthquake here in Southern California. So far, since that was announced about the energy transfer that we needed, we haven't seen that 4.8, 5.0 earthquake that we've needed to see over there in the Midwest, Texas, Oklahoma, and so forth. And the way I understand it is that we are log jammed right now in Southern California, where all that energy is building up right now. And like a dam, when you start to have too many, or in this case, too many earthquakes and a dam, too much water, it starts to trickle over a little bit over the dam, little by little. And that's what a lot of us believe right now that has happened with these minor earthquakes in Texas, and Oklahoma just had a 2.2 just a couple hours ago. So again, we've seen a little bit of action in the Midwest, Texas, Oklahoma area, but not the kind that we need to avert a possible large earthquake that's being predicted. And, you know, I would love to mention the channel that really gets the credit for some of this knowledge here, but unfortunately, you have to be careful on YouTube these days. They will flag you for some reason if you mention certain channels or even include certain topic in your title. So again, folks, not trying to take all credit for this earthquake report. There are other valuable sources out there that I know most of you watch as well, but to me, this is still a tense time right now. Even though this report here is reporting that the activity is declining, which is a great thing. However, I will say that I don't think we're quite out of the woods just yet. Some are saying we're on watch until the 11th, possibly the 12th of July. We'll continue to watch this, and you wonder what effect that this recent bout of space weather had on our magnetic field and if it's going to trigger anything on the West Coast like some are predicting. Again, this is not imminent. This is just only what people have predicted and with good information to predict that. So we will continue to monitor this. Absolutely. If anything breaks, of course, while we're off the air, we will jump on live to hopefully cover something that is not as bad as we thought. Again, I think a lot of us, and this is silly to say it, but I think a lot of us are hoping for that 5.0 in the middle of nowhere in Texas or Oklahoma. Like somewhere out in some field, some minor city that's not populated gets a 4.8 or something like that. Now, at that point, I think people can start to feel like, all right, maybe the big one is, out of the picture right now, and we dodged a bullet. So we'll just continue to monitor this as we go along, though, folks. Guys want to check out the article there about that, check it out on watchers.news. So, strong tornado hits Milano Marittima in Italy, giant hail in Abruzzo. Now, busy day here in Italy because I also had another article that talked about the hail injuring people as well. But according to ANSA, one woman was hurt and taken to the hospital. She had non-life-threatening injuries. Trees were down, including 200-century-old marine pines, road signs, billboards, and other hoardings as a tornado ripped through the town. Several streets were closed in the area. The whole area has been devastated, it reported. Numerous cars were destroyed. I mean, take a look at this, guys. That's some serious winds. Very, very large trees. These cars are mangled. These trees were blown over, roots and all. This isn't typical tornado where you see these trees snapped off at the top here. Wow. Let's take a look at some more footage here. There is the tornado. Hail size of oranges hit Abruzzo. That's right, folks. Hail the size of oranges hit Abruzzo, Italy on July 10th, injuring 18 people, including a pregnant woman. All victims were taken to the town's emergency room with bruises and other injuries, mainly to the head. And it was also reported the ones that had injuries to the head were dealing with stitches.
Bruises and Abruzzo, huh, Tate?
Bruises and Abruzzo, and stitches. Thanks, Mari, for pointing that out. Don't know what I'd do without you on these certain topics. Anyway, gotta love her, folks.
Sorry?
Gotta love her. What else you gotta do, right? Unfortunately, we have more footage of people trapped in their car in flood waters, just like we saw the other day with the brake lights. Folks, it's cheesy, but turn around, don't drown is the only message that you need to remember when it comes to floodwaters like this. And it'll be a miracle if there is, and there is, you can see the brake lights, there's people in the driver's side. So hopefully they get nudged up against a tree, but that right there is a dangerous situation too with the eddy currents. It could easily pull the nose of that vehicle down. Thankfully, just drifting slightly down the road here. But man, guys, I'm telling you, once you start to see that water rising, again, turn around, don't drown. Here is the large hail that fell, orange size, that is. More footage here from the hailstorm. Definitely baseball size, just being flung around. Good Lord. There's the aftermath after the storm. Here's a water spout.
Devastazione ovunque. Quando la furia
Oh,
della pioggia da una tregua.
you might have to view that on your own time, folks. I don't want to get a copyright on that one. Sound like an official report. Here's more amateur footage of the hail falling. Large hail. Definitely orange size. That was almost softball size. It just rolled across the screen. I'm telling you guys. I think it's safe to say that 2019 is definitely one of the worst years when it comes to hail. We've seen it all. Mexico, the freak hail event that happened there. Yes, 6 feet didn't fall, but the accumulations were incredible. They had to bring in the National Guard with bulldozers to clean out the roads. Cars were buried. It was 88 degrees outside that day. All right, guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with our climate news of the Grand Solar Minimum. Stay tuned.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.